welcome everybody. Today I am speaking with Anaiis Salles. And the two of us came together recently on YouTube, really. Anaiis left some intriguing comments on some of the shows that I do weekly, the One People Roundtable. They got my attention. And we very quickly decided to have a chat together. So thank you everyone for joining us. Today is about Earth 2.0. So if you've been watching the One People Roundtable for the last year and a half, you'll know that the subject of timelines has come up quite a lot. This feeling that timelines are either splitting, merging, closing out, dying off. It feels different from day to day at times as to what's really going on. The Mandela effect, of course, has come in and played a part in that as well, in those conversations. So today, Anaiis is going to give us her perspective. Excuse me, we need to turn cameras off, people, thank you. On what is happening, what is Earth 2.0, and her experiences with this. So welcome, and thank you for taking the time to have this conversation with us all.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be with you. I love your shows. You're an amazing interviewer, and you really have such a really unusual and unique approach as you kind of sort of find your way through some of these topics that we're all very much interested in.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So what is happening? What is Earth 2.0? In your little bio that you sent me, you made mention of Anthropos 10, which is a term that I know through John Lamlash's work.
Yes. And
there's another gentleman by the name of Brooks Agnew who has written a book called Birth, as in Bearth. His, I guess you could say, hypotheses, but it's more than that. He truly believes this is the case, is that there, excuse me, are two Earths, one of a higher vibration, one of a lower vibration, that merged together, collided together many, many years ago. And this is where we get the flood stories and, you know, the cataclysmic stories of the past. And that they have been occupying the same space. His analogy for that would be to say, if you have a bucket and you fill that bucket with marbles, those marbles would represent this dense 3D Earth. There's still room to fill the bucket with water, which would represent the lighter frequency Earth, the higher vibratory Earth. So both occupying the same space at the same time. And that right now we're in the process of actually separating again. There's also, of course, a lot of people are familiar with Delores Cannon, who's talked about the Earth splitting into essentially two vibratory different states around this time. And of course, more recently, we've had the Mandela effect, and we're having a lot of people having very, very bizarre and personal experiences in regards to feeling like they are merging another aspect of themselves, or perhaps having intense dreams where they're dreaming the death of an aspect or fractal of themselves. This is all coming together, you know, and at times it is confusing as to whether or not we're dealing with merging or whether we're dealing with splitting. And sometimes it feels like both. So please tell me where you stepped into all of this initially.
Well, my first inkling of this as a specific process appeared in 2012. So I've been involved in consciousness and exploration for a long time and had a spontaneous, what's known as a Kundalini awakening in 1989. And I did some interesting work with that for a good 10 years, and then I went back to a kind of quiet life. But in 2011, I began to feel called. That part of me began to want to wake up. It was like I had been put on a back burner, so to speak, for a while until it was really time for me to come out and do what it is that I'm meant to do here. Well, if you may recall, in 2012, Hurricane Sandy hit the east coast of the United States with a lot of power, and it was a very destructive event from a physical point of view. And I live close to that area. I'm in the state of Pennsylvania. Hurricane Sandy hit New Jersey and New York really hard. And during that time, in the peak of the storm, I was in meditation, in a sense, holding a protective space in the part of the world in the city where I live, which is simply to hold the space and hold things that I love dear, the trees on my property, all of these things, to hold them in a loving space while the storm went through its process. And I was in meditation for several hours, and during that time, I felt a very strong connection to Gaia, and the question came to me, would I like to reside on Earth too? And I knew immediately what that meant. I didn't have to ask what that meant. I knew in my heart what that meant, and I said right away, yes, I would like that. I would like to make that transition.
Did you have any concept of this before that event?
No. It was a very clear process moment. I've had other clear process moments that I feel have been leading up to what a lot of us are experiencing right now, with this sense of merging and moving apart and merging. So from my perspective, there were other processes that followed, which for me, some of them were personal and some of them felt very universal. So one of the things that I needed to get clear about was there was a really, really, really amazing struggle going on in what we would call lower density Earth and the lower astral realm. Tremendous activity going on. And for what that meant for me as a personal process was that I was in terrible physical pain for 2.5 years. Deep, deep physical pain. I couldn't move. I was literally stuck. I could barely walk. And during that time, I felt I was...
Did this physical stuff just come out of nowhere? I mean...
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
I was a beekeeper at that time. I have a very strong connection with bees and the work that they do. And it was interesting because after the Sandy finished with her fury, I went to check on my beehives. I was very concerned that I was going to find a lot of damage. And I walked into the apiary, and a tree had fallen right in the direct line with one of my newest baby hives. But the branches of the tree had folded around the beehive like an embrace. And, it was so beautiful. The bees were fine. They were perfectly safe. And I felt that was a little bit of a confirmation about a sense of resonance with the planet. So I was in a lot of physical pain, and it felt so purposeful, like every day I had to choose. Every day I had to choose, and I had to choose to, I think what we're experiencing is merging some of our fragments, healing some of our fragments from long ago, from now, from early trauma in life, whatever. It was like, this is really going to be very pointed work that needs to be done. So the universe really put me in a place, and I'm someone who's moved around, traveled all over the world. It's like, no, you're going to sit still now and you're going to do this work. They really put me in a park. And for a long time, I was not happy about this. But as the process unfolded and unfolded and unfolded, it became clearer that this was a result of my choice to be on Earth too. And that I would need to become a co-creator, a conscious co-creator. And that this is, I believe, where Anthropos 11 is taking us, where our DNA is changing, and we're all really being presented with the opportunity to become co-creators with Gaia Sophia, with our greater galactic brothers and sisters, whoever they may be. And we're getting to practice this right now. So I've experienced going back and forth between Earth 2 and Earth. And I can feel it when I have transitioned into the Earth 1 vibration. It is very, very different. So I'll leave it there and let you...
Well, can you give some examples of what that feels like? Because There are
Yeah,
days when you can't you can't put words to it, but it's just like, this is not my reality. These are not my
exactly.
people. This is, but you can't get that specific. It's not like you can point a finger at anything in particular. So what does it feel like, or how does that represent for you?
It shows up in the reality that I'm in as a kind of a friction, a feeling of friction, and a feeling, I call it fractiousness, where the energy seems to be fighting with you. The flow is gone. I usually am in a sense of flow, and the flow becomes this jagged friction, and I can feel this kind of jagged energy in my energy field. And that's when I become awake, because I realize that I could be drawn into an experience. I need to stay very alert so that I can be aware of what's happening around me. So this has been going on now for a long time. So a recent experience that I had was, I was off to meet an appointment. I was on an appointment and I needed to drive. And I had borrowed my son's car. They were away on vacation, and I had borrowed the car to go make this appointment. And as I'm driving, my intuition is telling me not to take the usual route. It was so clear. It was go another way. So I listened, and I went another way. And as I crossed the road where I would have made my right turn to go the usual route, and went across another intersection up a hill, I began to notice there was something wrong with the car. So I was like, okay, we go a little further. And then I said, no, I can't continue. I'm going to have to find a safe place to pull over. All that happened fairly uneventfully, and called the tow truck, and I had to wait a little while, and it was raining, but it wasn't a big mess. But what was clearly evident to me was that if I had not listened to my energy field and to the signals that I was getting from all around me, I would have been a very windy, curvy, wet, dangerous road, and I would have had to pull over, and it would not have been a good thing. Could have been a real mess. So all I can encourage people to do is, when you begin to feel this kind of fractious, it's a friction, it's a sense of you're moving out of the flow. There's a sense of your energy connections become difficult, communications break down. Take a minute and check out where you are. Check out if you're centered in yourself, and check out whether you can quickly switch from being an experiencer to an observer, to one who chooses, to one who co-creates.
Nice steps. I like that. You've made mention of Kundalini.
Yes.
Before we get into anything else, I want to sort of talk about this for a minute. Kundalini and chakras got my attention last year. And my sense is that it's not necessarily something I want to awaken. So can I ask what your experience was, and what you feel this Kundalini experience is, or this Kundalini energy is?
Sure.
Yep.
The actual experience was unexpected, and it was unsought. I was not someone who was meditating. This was not my path at all. I'm married with 2 kids and a court reporter, and I needed a vacation, and I took a vacation at the Monroe Institute in Faber, Virginia, that was established by Robert Monroe, who wrote the book Journeys Out of the Body. And I'd had several spontaneous out-of-body experiences, and they felt like titillation to me, because they took me into the astral realm, and I knew that, and they took me out of reality in a sense, but for no good purpose. So I had gone to the Institute with the question of, if I can't find a good purpose for this, what felt to be possibly a skill, a consciousness skill, I wasn't interested. So when I got to the Institute and I did have the awakening, it was very simple, Lisa. I saw a little dot of clear silver white light inside of myself, at the bottom of me. And the moment I turned my attention to it, it shot up, felt like my center, and exploded in the center of my brain into this beautiful, gorgeous white light. And at that time, my past lives were shown to me, one after another, after another, after another, after another. And I said, okay, that's, so what? So what? You know, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so there's a, you know, you gotta beware the glam. Okay. So I came out of that experience feeling I didn't know anything about chakras. I didn't know anything about Kundalini. I knew nothing. And I came out of that experience back into the group in this retreat, and we were sharing. I said, can someone please tell me what these pipes are? I have these pipes. Now, and that energy is pouring through these pipes. Can someone tell me what this is? And what had happened was the Kundalini in coming up all the way through and really igniting and lining up my pineal gland had opened up all the chakras, cleared them out, opened them up, and I was connected for the first time to what I call my meta being, active in my interacting with my human body. It's a lot of energy, Lisa. It's a lot of energy. So I did my best to just kind of stay with it. On my way home, I ended up coming out of the time-space agreement completely because it took me 7 hours to drive down to the Institute. I took the same route home, and I got home in 4 hours. And during that time, I was feeling myself in this very expanded sort of timeless energy space. Okay, so I got home. I couldn't read anymore because letters just would float up like bits of light off the paper and fly away. And what happened was that energy very quickly became healing energy. And I began to be able to use it in a very interactive way, using the chakras, using the human energy field to work with some really, really sick people. So within 2 years of that experience, I had created and co-created a situation where I was working with cancer patients and burn patients in Moscow, Russia, and working alongside physicians, and made a documentary about it, and all the results were medically documented and verified. So that was what the Kundalini experience was like for me. But it also it heightened my telepathic skills, it heightened clairsentience, clairaudience. I could look through and into the body. So I was able to work alongside physicians saying, well, this is what I see going on, or this is what is not happening. And none of this. I had no frame of reference for any of this.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible that there is what we could call a natural organic experience like your own, that there is an energy that can be released that is a very positive experience? How do I say this without sounding like, you know,
oh, just say it.
a reptile conspiracy nut? That there could well be an implanted energy that can be activated, perhaps in order to prevent the organic one from happening. You know, like if it looks like it might, then maybe this one gets activated first. In the research I did, I just found so many people who ended up in psych wards, you know, or and are still there years later, whose lives were so turned upside down. Mm-hmm. Mental, emotional, physical state was just destroyed. Then there's also, and everyone's calling it under this one umbrella of a Kundalini awakening, you know, but it may well be two very different experiences, because there are some like yours where people don't lose a grip on reality. Everything is just enhanced, and it's a very positive experience and quite blissful. And this other one where, you know, the results aren't so good. And it could well be the same for the chakras. That's that's where my, without trying to sound like too much of a reptile nut, I feel like it is something that is open to manipulation, or there have in fact been implanted,
Absolutely.
overlaid things that mess with it. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with that. And I think one of the things that was interesting, because at that time I was being positioned to move into the New Age movement. I mean, I came back from that experience and said, oh, when are you going to write your book? And I was like, no, that's not what this was about. That's not at all what this was about. And I watched other people, for me, what it looked like succumbing to a kind of energy that didn't feel clean or clear to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw them being put in positions of power, but the power was the kind that attracted people to them as gurus. And that doesn't feel clean and clear to me.
Agreed.
So I think there are two potential ways that this can unfold. And I think it absolutely can be manipulated. And I was very fortunate. I feel I was very, very fortunate because it was an organic process. And circumstances allowed me to be able to just go through it gradually and adapt and gradually and adapt. And it turned out to be a very, very positive thing in my life.
When this subject comes up of two Earths, and even when I posted this interview, you know, the questions come up and concerns come up about, well, who's going where and what if I get left behind? The wheat from the chaff discussion and who's who. So who or what is inhabiting 2.0 and who or what gets left behind, if that's even the right term for it?
We have to be very careful here because there are so many stories that we're dealing with that we have to clean up right now, right? The wheat and the chaff is one story. It's one way of describing. Getting left behind is another story, right? I really think what it comes down to is who is ready, willing, and able to simply say, I am a human being, I am a divine creation, I am a magnificent part of this amazing being who is Gaia Sophia, and my destiny is to become a co-creator with her, connected to Source. And that's it. That's who's on Earth too.
You know, if I had to put a way of describing this split, this division that I see, I think I talked about it recently on one of the weekly shows, that it's, to me, I see sort of 85 to 90%, maybe a little bit more, of the world and nature as being very symbiotic and very nurturing. You know, there's a lot of give and take, support, nurture, symbiosis, and equilibrium. You know, it's always seeking balance. And that, whether that's in the animal life, the plant life, or humans. And then there is this small percentage that is purely parasitic. You know, you do have plant life that kills other plant life.
Mm-hmm.
You have parasites that kill their hosts, and you have people who we can call parasites. To me, that's the division.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Because
the way you describe it is really very elegant, because when you look at it from that perspective, every day I'm in real joy. All that I'm in so much joy, and I really don't find myself moving into fearful spaces. I've been abstaining from mainstream media, news now, and television for like 4 or 5 years. But I wake up, and when I go out and I look at the sky and I see the clouds, I feel them as part of this symbiotic relationship that you're speaking of. I feel that with the birds on my property. I feel that with the trees and the grass. I feel that when I walk through my neighborhood, when I come outside, I feel where I live loving me back. And what I have observed is that while I have been struggling to come out of any kind of separation, and I'm still struggling, I think we all have plenty to do there, it's to notice that in the relationship, the way you describe it as symbiotic and nurturing, those other beings have never been in separation. We've imposed separation on them. And I think part of what's happening now is we are starting to consciously undo that separation, to take responsibility for it, and to reach out to these same domains of beings and saying, yes, we know what we did. We know better now. We're going to move forward in a new way, and I'm so glad to have this relationship with you. How can I help you? How can I be with you? Because for me, it's all information in relationship. Consciousness is information in relationship. And we're waking up to how we can, tremendous amounts of information that we can bring into a more nurturing, symbiotic, caring, and loving relationship with everything, because everything contains information, ultimately. And everything in that level is conscious.
You said that the split is imminent. What does that mean?
Well, I think it's going to be perceptually unique to each of us, but I feel as though we have reached a tipping point where we are choosing simply that we're going to go forward as co-creators. We know what we want. Earth 2 people know what they want. They know that they want peace. They know that they want to use the Earth's amazing resources for well-being. This is what we want. So that separation, because there are people who don't have that kind of clarity of heart yet, and there are some who are struggling for that, and they'll get there. They'll make it through. But I think there are some whose intention from the very core does not meet those parameters. And I think that those beings will have their own path of evolution and will continue on an quote, an earth, whether that's a physical embodiment or a dimensional embodiment, that suits their intention.
You've used John Lamlash's terminology in regards to Anthropos. What about when it comes to the archons? Do you feel, believe, know that this creation was kind of infected or hijacked or whatever the word is by this parasitic energy that Gaia Sophia is actually waking up and taking back control? Do you follow that whole storyline with him?
I feel that storyline. I feel that storyline in my body. That was what was amazing to me when I discovered, because I had read the Nag Hammadi texts in the 80s and the myth of Sophia, but I think John Lamlash has done a remarkable job of putting the narrative together in a way that we can not only follow, but we can feel in our bodies. So what I feel about that is that it feels like truth in my cells. And as I'm activating my DNA and as I'm feeling these changes in my body and I'm noting them and I'm cataloging them every other day or every other week in terms of the additional skill sets that I believe are inherently human to Anthropos 11, I do believe that Gaia Sophia will be making her correction. And she will have help. She will have help to make sure that there's a proper, prudent, and purposeful reconnecting with the error and correcting it. And in some ways, we're going along for that ride, and that does require a great deal of trust. because we can't fix it. We can't. We cannot fix that situation. We can be part of the solution, but we cannot control it or fix it. That is not up to us.
It's just started raining here, so let me know if it gets too noisy or anything. I just wanted to make a comment to the people who are in the room with us. If you have any questions, please type them in, or you can put your hand up and I can bring you out and you can turn your microphone on if you'd like to ask directly. Vicky, no, sip and watch, he is spilling. Happy birthday, Vicky, by the way.
Happy birthday.
Okay, so let's just the Mandela effect for a little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
I wouldn't. I'd love to get into that.
Yeah. I mean, I actually read something this morning that came from someone who had a conversation with a person who works at CERN. And they said that, yes, they turn this machine on to go and look into different dimensions or alternative Earths or whatever. And sometimes it's not there anymore. They're actually noticing that that one's gone. And there's so many people, as you know, millions of people around the world are noticing this. Whether it's Christians noticing changes in the Bible to other people noticing pop cultural changes. What are we looking at? Are we looking at, and I had a personal experience where I felt a very deep knowing that timelines in my perception were closing out.
Mm-hmm.
What are we looking at here? Are they closing out and then we are merging the remnants of them? What's happening in your perception?
I'd like to come at that from a slightly different perspective, because in my work as an energy healer, there have been times when I've gone into the energy field and physical bodies of people who, in the reality in which they were living at the moment I put my hands on them, they were very sick. They might have been dying. It might have been questionable whether or not they would recover or how they would recover. That was their reality. That was their timeline. Do you follow?
Yep.
Yep. So when I went in and interacted with them, with their permission, of course, and we changed the structures, we changed the templates that were part of their ongoing physicality, and new energies came in. When they went to the next moment in time, they were different. Things had changed. They were on a new timeline. And in that new timeline, they were no longer sick. On that new timeline, they were on the timeline to complete recovery. In some cases, miraculous recovery. So when we look at ourselves as a collective, and we look at our human collective as one body, of which we are all sort of moving, brilliant, miraculous parts, how would it be different for us that as we're doing our healing and taking responsibility for who we are and wanting to put ourselves in a timeline where we are free, liberated, happy, whole, healthy, and living in abundance? Of course that would change our timelines. It would have to. And so it's happening very quickly. And I think what CERN has done, it's sort of the same deal as the Kundalini. There can be an organic process, or there can be a manipulated process. And I think CERN is part of the manipulated process. And we have to ask ourselves, why would a group of people on this planet, without any conversation or any global consent, build a $10 billion machine that goes around in a circle for 17 miles to do what? What is the benefit that we get from this activity? The actual benefit to the human collective, not to just a handful of transhumanists who would like something else to happen, where the human energy, the collective, gets used to create something, to manifest something that is not in alignment with Gaia Sophia's intention. So I think we need to look at the timelines and the Mandela effect. It's interesting because as I've been following this, when I was a young person, I felt very different from other people. And I didn't have a lot of company. And it took me a long time to realize that that was a state of consciousness that I was in. I've never had more company than I have today. I have playmates everywhere. It's amazing. And in following the Mandela effect, things that were true in my reality are still true. They have not changed. But they have changed for people who are merging into the reality with which I have always been familiar. And so that's been really interesting to track and to notice, and also to look in my life. Is there slippage? Is there something that I need to be looking at in terms of the merging? So I think it's a very dynamic process right now, very dynamic. And I do think we want to look at it as some of this is organic and it's being driven by Gaia Sophia and our human collective as we move toward Earth 2 and becoming genetically expressing ourselves as Anthropos 11, and the manipulated process in which there are intentions that are desperately trying to maintain power over mind, power over dominion over the planet. And they're trying to maintain that hold. And they're just not going to be able to do it. But there's still, in our culture, we're seeing ourselves getting better. We're seeing ourselves healing. And it's confusing. It can be confusing. I had a guy who had a brain tumor. The brain tumor dissolved, and I have video of him, and we're just gazing, looking at each other, and I'm holding him steady because he could feel how he was changing in the moment, and it was freaking him out, right? But then he was okay.
I've had the privilege of being messaged by many people telling me of the most extraordinary healing, including one woman who has a daughter, I think she's 15 or 16, who's always had cystic fibrosis. She doesn't now. So she's got the blood work and the tests and the x-rays all her life to show that and been treated for it, and now they can't find it, no trace of it. Now she has allergies and asthma or something, which is not great, but it's better than cystic fibrosis.
Absolutely.
And heart conditions. But then we also seem to be going through a process too, where we're processing ailments that aren't ours, traditionally ours. You wake up one morning and you've got this condition that's like, where'd that come from? Marks, scars, birthmarks, moles, all these sorts of things are popping up overnight, which is where this merging thing seems to come from. The idea that it's nothing more than a psyop, I think, is negating a whole lot of experiences that are happening. So what does Anthropos 11 look like?
I hope to find out. I hope to be able to see what that looks like. I think we're starting to get some glimpses of that. I think what you just described is a glimpse of that. I think that we are evolving into, we will become self-sustaining. We will be able to become self-healing. We will be deeply in tune. We will have a relationship with information and energy around us that will allow us to take care of ourselves and each other in a very new and dynamic way. So let's look at communication. I'm now finding that I can direct my devices, my electronic devices, to broadcast for me. I can reach through my devices, and I can send energy, literally send energy through my computer into a remote healing session. People can feel me in the room with them. So I think we're a little bit dependent on these machines right now, but we can use them to do what we would like to learn how to do and help us morph into the Anthropos 11. And then we won't need them anymore. We'll just simply be able to do it.
I do have a question from the chat room. Can we talk about your thoughts on astral projections and meditations, and do you use videos or music, or do you have your own type of meditation?
I do have my own type of meditation. Thank you for asking that question. The meditation that works for me is a form of it. For years, I did a waking meditation where I look at my day as a lucid dream. It's called Vipassana. And that was extremely useful for me. I think we all have to find what works for us. In my own meditations, if I'm doing a visualization, a co-creative project with the earth, I will allow her to guide me, and I will follow her cues, and I will sometimes use music for that. I think what we want to do is really become spontaneous in how we approach and allow ourselves to be, not to go into routines. Life is absolutely spontaneous. There are some routines that we have, but this is a time for us to liberate ourselves from regimentation. So I say, do what feels good. You know, it feels good.
You know, there's a lot of talk about people breaking out of routines. You know, they used to meditate daily. They used to or use a picture, and they just can't go there anymore. That just doesn't feel good anymore.
Right.
Or physical practices, and it's all just sort of dropped away. And I know that when I'm being spontaneous, that's kind of when you feel alive, really.
Yes.
I've never been much for routine, I must admit. I know it's good for me in some ways, but I just can't kind of pull it off. And there's also been conversations of late around the fact that the tools that we're used to using don't seem to want to work anymore. I've had conversations with people all about the fact that they just don't seem to be able to manifest anything right now. It's like there's these blocks.
Yes.
To manifesting. Or that whatever practice they used in the past for manifesting and creating just aren't working anymore. Why is that, do you think?
I'm glad we are touching upon this. I do a program, a teaching on, it's a free program, it's available online, manifestation versus co-creation. We're in a time now where so many of the old rituals, I'm getting messages and emails from people who have been studying alchemy or Kabbalah, and they're trying to build their Merkaba. They're working. None of this is working anymore, and they're confused. What's happening, I feel and I sense that what may be happening is that we're all being invited into a living teaching, because what's going on energetically in the earth has changed. The earth is now embedded with the higher fourth level dimension harmonics, which is the heart chakra. When we manifest, we're doing it for ourselves. We're doing it through the mind. It's a power trip. Most of the time, it's a power trip. This is not allowed anymore. This will not be allowed. We have to switch and come into the relationship from the heart. Here's the cycle. This is what I share with people. This is the cycle of co-creation. First comes giving. You have an impulse to give, even if it's just your time, or to give attention. That's an impulse to give. Next comes asking. We ask for permission. We go into relationship by taking giving to asking. Be involved. Play with me. Come play with me. Then we experience receiving. Oh, yes, I'll play with you. What are we going to do today? What are we going to make? What's happening? Then we have that, and those three energies combined. This is a vortex now. This is a moving vortex of energy. Moves into sharing. We share all of this energy and information. Then we have the experience of gratitude and joy. and thankfulness, and that takes us right back into the impulse of giving. This, as basically as I can put it, seems to be the wonderful magnetic electrical charge energy of co-creation. That does not happen with manifestation. It's about taking. It's not about asking. A lot of the times it's not about asking from the heart. It's about directing thought rather than opening to receiving spontaneous impulses and information. So I think it's interesting. I agree with you. So many people who have been fabulous manifestors are blocked. They're completely blocked right now.
Yeah. There's a more personal question to you in the chat room too about the kinds of healings you can do. There's a woman in there with a special needs son who's blind and non-verbal with low muscle tone. Is that something you've got experience with?
I just let things happen, right? I don't have a plan. If someone wants to share time with me, and I will give what I have to give, and what will happen, because I don't come from the approach of fixing anything. It's about moving out of time into the now, where all energy opens up, and who we are has the potential to be something new. We can also understand that there are times when our journey, I had a deep relationship, a teaching relationship, when my 1.5-year-old son became sick with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And that was the second major step of learning to be someone who can help with healing. Because it isn't something I do, it's who we are.
Yes, agreed.
Be happy to hear from you.
Just a comment, 2012 was the start of a new age, and we are just now starting to raise up to meet it. Spontaneity is hard, with the schedule we're on, but I homeschool, so we can be free as a family. Any advice is appreciated.
We live in a very controlled, regimented society. It is difficult to find the spontaneity. It really does take small moments of breakthrough, small moments of saying yes. Try that out.
We are constantly given blinkers to put on so that we stay nice and focused and just look at what's in front of us and don't see the bigger picture. And
right,
we're going to take all those off.
Right.
Another comment. My sister and I meditated over her son, who came down with a terrible sinus infection that day, coughing, choking, gagging on phone, all of that. For me, I see golden energy coming through my crown chakra, holding the healing thought and poured out of my heart down onto him, while imagining in my mind us cheering that he was all better. 15 minutes later, it was completely gone. Most beautiful moment ever.
That's it. There you go.
Yeah. I think we've got amazing abilities when it comes to this. And we don't, again, we're not healing somebody else. All we're doing is helping to facilitate and hold that space for them to tap into it themselves, is what I feel.
Yep.
And yes, your intention is everything. Self-healing, again, yes. How do you, there's a question for you here. Ooh, I lost it. How do you feel about neurofeedback for retraining the brain?
I think it can be very effective. I think anything that helps us to learn how to focus our attention in a way that's directed toward our well-being, I think can be very, very useful. Biofeedback, very, very useful, because you're learning how to feel who you are in your body in a very specific way.
So where to from here for people? I mean, if you're one of these, I found it interesting that you said that all of these Mandela effects are actually, feels like people kind of joining your timeline because it's the one you've always been on. That's interesting. There's been about an 80-20 split for me in terms of that's new or no, that's the way it's always been. Most of it's new. And they're in this state of, at times, yes, feeling the two distinct energies of this is my world, this isn't, this is my world, this isn't, this is my person, this isn't. You know, Dee and I joke about it regularly on the shows. That it's not my Dee today, or it's I'm not her Lisa, or whatever. We're having these experiences. We're feeling the friction. We're feeling the flow. We're feeling the aggravation. We're feeling the ease. Where, you know, and it can be moment by moment. So there are some days where you're in and out, or sometimes it's days at a time, or even weeks at a time, and frustration that nothing's sort of moving forward. At the same time, we can sit back and see that just as the fear mongering and the propaganda and the craziness of the world that we do not want to be in is just being amped up and amped up and amped up. At the same time, there's all this amazing stuff happening in the world, and people being extraordinary and helping people and creating some beautiful things, and new technologies are coming out and stuff that I don't know, would have been blocked even only 12 months ago, and that had been blocked 12 months ago. The contrast between the two now is just so stark.
It's stark. It's very stark.
And we're sort of sitting in this space in between, you know, observing these two worlds unfolding. Is it really just a simple matter of making that conscious choice, a conscious intention that this is the world I want to live in, and just giving all of your energy and attention to that, and just kind of ignoring this one? I mean, sometimes that can be, you can be accused of putting your head in the sand, you know. Does that make us apathetic and ignoring this stuff? I mean, these conversations are the ones that we have all the time. You can't ignore it. You can't put your head in the sand. It leads to apathy, and we need to be warriors, and all those sort of conversations.
So let's talk about drama.
Okay.
Let's talk about how used to drama we are.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how stable a structure, if you look at the triangle, victim, perpetrator, rescuer, from the emotional dynamics, all of our dramas are based on these dynamics, on these relationships. What if we were being given the opportunity to discover what it's like to have a whole different functional set of relationships? Maybe the shape isn't even a triangle. Who knows what the shape is? The drama is gone. For what I have found over the last few months and weeks, because this is up for everybody, is compassion. Is if I can just notice the fractiousness, notice like, oh boy, you know, and just like take 2 seconds and breathe and just exude the energy of compassion. I will have turned myself inside out to meet the other, right? And my identity is not fixed. My sense of identity is not threatened or in jeopardy by taking that one breath, turning inside out, and then breathing back in, right? And making the choice. It's honestly, it's really, like, we're so used to having it be so complicated.
Yeah, we do like to complicate things, I'll admit. Floating and living in a grace-like state would be on the right path? Question. How do you stay there? Which is
Could you repeat that for me? Say that again for me, Lisa.
Floating and living in a grace-like state would be on the right path? Question mark. How do you stay there? Question mark. But you kind of just address that. And just make a conscious choice in each moment. And
yes.
People like to 0 point too, I guess.
Yes. When I was in that 2.5 year period of intense pain, it was really intense. I would walk and I would see stars and break out into a sweat. The pain was so intense. Every day was a choice. I would open my eyes, and before I moved, I would say yes to the day. And I would say yes to my compassion to myself, because I was hurting. It hurt.
Did you understand the process you were in when you were in it?
Yes. Yes. And everyone said, why did you do this? Why did you do that? I went and had the x-rays. I went through, and I was like, this is not how it's going to unfold for me. I have to be completely present to this journey. This is changing my consciousness. This is turning me inside out in the best possible way. And I have to just wake up every day and say, yes, here I am. I'm showing up again. I'm ready. I'm willing. I'm able. I don't know what to do. I'm not in control. And yes, my body hurts. And day by day by day, a little better information came. I changed my diet. I detoxed. I just paid attention. Compassion. And all during that time, we were having the Ebola crisis. We were on the verge of, the world was in agony also. The world was in agony. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how important is, one of the questions, how important is diet?
I think diet is very important. I think that doing conscious eating, like if you can eliminate meat, I'm an omnivore. It's really difficult for me to totally give up eating life forms, animals, but I really have cut so far back, primarily eating vegetables. It's like 90% now that my life is vegetarian, which is a challenge for me. But it has absolutely, I'm off sugar. I've been off sugar for 2 years this fall. Slowly, in a compassionate way, making these changes. So I would say if you can do it, if you can afford it, eat organic as much as you can, be vegetarian as much as you can, make sure you enjoy what you eat, really enjoy it, give thanks for what comes your way, because it's energy that's coming in to sustain you, so be sure that you give thanks for that. Lots of water, right? I do certain things, like I use bentonite clay once a week in an emulsion to just really clean everything out, get it all out, start over again. So they're very simple things, non-expensive things that we can do to take really good care of ourselves. I would say start there and see how you feel. I'm up at 4 in the morning now, and I'm going on 2 to 3 hours of sleep. And I'm old.
Well, that's another thing. Sleep patterns, they're all over the place too.
Yes.
And dreams are more intense. There are people who are dreaming of, I had this discussion yesterday on a thread on Facebook, surrendering, like it would be a moment of like a tsunami or a nuclear bomb going off, or some sort of cataclysmic event, and they're in it and they go through a surrender process. It's like there's absolutely nowhere to run right now. This is it, and they die in their dream. And the discussion was around, are these prophetic? And I sort of threw in there that maybe if we are in this process of integrating these fractals of ourselves, that we're actually sort of processing that fractal's last moments as they're coming in. Possible.
Spot on, Lisa. Spot on.
Yeah? Okay.
Absolutely. And this is what's changing our DNA. We're clearing these, I call them Earth trauma signatures. And a lot of people think they're going to happen in the future when they've already happened. And we're carrying the memory. And because of the vibration that we're living in, the memory is being drawn forth for us to feel on some level, so that we can embrace it in compassion and integrate it and incorporate it into our overall collective healing process. So I would say a lot of people right now, just get quiet and ask yourself, if you're dreaming that you died, it's clear. But when you wake up, ask, just when you're in that quiet moment, ask, is this about now, or is this about the past? And am I healing something that's already happened? Okay? And I do want to go back, because someone asked about the astral projection.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't really quite go there. The lower astral realms, the archons have created a whole universe of faux, F-A-U-X, a faux universe. They have done an excellent job of it, a faux universe. This exists on the lower realm of the astral. And it has been kind of pushing against our three-dimensional reality here. That is being deconstructed. It's being taken apart. So when you are astral projecting now, you may find that the quality of your dreams is different. You may find that your dreaming is less agitated unless you're still, as Lisa has described, healing and integrating fragments and fractals. Because we know now, at least I think some of us are aware, that what we call karma and rebirth, it's not natural to us.
Yay!
It's not organic.
No, okay, thank you for that, because that's been one of my feelings.
That's a setup, right? And we're
rinse and repeat cycle, I call it, and it's
rinse and repeat, right? So we are in the place where the rinse and repeats. If you don't remember that lifetime, generally speaking, most people on the planet, very few people on the planet, human beings, die in their sleep peacefully when they're 95, right? That's not how it goes. Why is that? Because in that moment of passage, given the situation with the archons and the energy that's extracted from fear and trauma and anguish and loss and grief, that's food for them, right? Very few people get to die in their sleep. So when we're clearing these fragments of all these various existences where we've been through the rinse and repeat like 1,000 times, we may not remember the existence, but we remember the end. And we feel the end.
Yep.
And we're getting an opportunity to kind of clear that junky flow universe out and deconstruct it.
You mentioned the word pushing, which has brought something up for me, because there has actually been a physical sensation, and I'm not the only person who's noticed this. There's been a few conversations I've had around it, where it feels like the atmosphere itself is pushing down on you. And other people have explained observations of feeling like the sky is like so close now you can reach out and touch it, or the clouds are just there. But I felt it most intensely only a few days ago, just sitting right where I am, doing something on the computer, and there was this feeling of pressure. And I actually kind of got slumped, like someone was sitting behind me, pushing down on my shoulders. It was that intense. And I knew it was just the atmosphere itself. It's like it's dropping. I don't know how to explain it, but that lower astral is sort of pushing down on us. There are times where you can physically feel it.
Yes, we can. So I would like to share that for the 2.5 years where I really couldn't walk, I didn't go outside very much because it wasn't fun. And the chemtrails were insane. But in the last month, since I've been working with the earth consciously and trying to establish a relationship with the elementals who make up our atmosphere, and I've been directing healing at the atmosphere, and I've set up guided meditations for people for whom that resonates with them. They want to do something to relieve the elementals from having to be enslaved by the chemtrails. Do you understand?
Yep.
Elementals, the chemtrails are designed to enslave the elementals of the air. They don't want to be enslaved. So when we go in, and we go in from a co-creative place with permission from Gaia, and we say, I give you, you're free. You're free. I'm bringing who I am as Anthropos 11. I'm bringing you your freedom. You do not, you don't have to be enslaved by this energy. So I'm doing that with the radiation in the Pacific Ocean. Right? These are mineral elements of the earth that are being enslaved, that have been enslaved. They don't want to be in that situation. We go in, we take our co-creative energy and we say, we're going to co-create something else now. Maybe we're going to create new life forms in the ocean. Absolutely new life forms, never before seen. And what they will do is co-create a solution in the Pacific Ocean so that life can flourish there again. Yeah? Okay. Fracking. Yeah. Fracking. The damage to our beautiful mother's veins and arteries where her water flows and her sentient oil lives, right? We go in, we have a relationship. We go in a meditation. We go into the deep center of the earth and we curl up in there like little balls of babyhood, and we say, Mama, I'm here. How can I serve you? Let me flow. Let me radiate out through. Let me really, and I can now, my energy field is as big as the earth or bigger, and I go into those waterways and I say, hi there. You're no longer enslaved. You know, this is what we get to do. So I want to tell you that where I live for a month, every time they try to put the chemtrails up, the elementals in the air are saying, no, we're turning all of those into natural clouds. Look what a beautiful day. It's been going on for months now. Mm-hmm. It's astonishing. I sit and watch it. Beautiful. This is what we can do. This is who we can be.
So, question in regards to how messy this is going to be, this process. You know, we've been fed everything from the Bible, ancient prophecy, psychic predictions, NASA.
Yeah.
Name it, right?
Yeah.
It's going to get nasty. It's going to get ugly. It's going to be cataclysmic. Even Brooks Agnew, who I referenced earlier, says that this separation process will, get nasty. We've even got the more modern day stuff with, say, Cliff High's WebBot. We get it from every angle possible. This is going to get ugly. It's going to get cataclysmic. People are going to die.
Drama.
Yes. Fear.
Drama.
We've got our preppers, all of that. Do you see this process as cataclysmic, or do you see that those people who choose to actively, consciously step into Earth 2.0 just don't experience any of that stuff? Does it happen on the old Earth?
Yes. Yes to both of those questions. Yes, it happens on the old Earth because that is what people will choose to co-create. It doesn't happen on the new Earth.
A lot of this is predictive programming, and it's because we are the creators and the manifestors. It's just predictive programming and getting enough people to buy into it to create these events.
I'm going to give you an example. There are communities of people of color in the United States that struggle. African Americans historically have a lot of struggle to do well and thrive in the culture. The predictive programming from the time a child who is black-skinned enters school is that they are not smart, they do not have any capacity, they will not be able to do well, they're going to fail, it's set up for them that way, and these are the messages that they're bombarded with all the time.
Yep.
Right? This is just another example of how we are manipulated, right? So wake up, look at your life, look at whatever group you're in. You may be in several groups. Look at what the messages are. If you're a woman, what have been the messages about what you can't do and who you can't be, right? And if you try to carve another path of liberation for yourself. Well, it's guaranteed it's going to be messy. There's going to be a lot of drama, and it's never going to happen, right? Wake up and look at your life. It is your life. None of this has to be. None of it has to be. It's moments of being in the now, really being in the now, right now with every breath. And don't worry about the how. Be in the now, don't worry about the how. We don't have to have the big mess. Compassion, 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 and be prepared to be spontaneous and do what needs to be done in the moment.
You know, one of the biggest movements, I guess, that I've seen evolve since 2012 is that of community, of people wanting back into community. And that's playing out in a lot of different ways, whether it's actually starting from scratch and building a conscious community together, or whether it's in the suburbs and taking over abandoned buildings and abandoned lots to do community gardens, which brings people together. It's playing out in lots of different ways. But the call for it is so deep right now in people. It's such a longing, it's like, it's this or no, it's this or I'm out of here altogether. You know, and also this movement of being mobile, you know, the move into smaller homes, mobile homes, that sort of thing. To the point where the government in the US has had to made steps to try and ban the process. This idea, there seems to be that we're opting out of, thankfully, this idea that, you know, the American dream or the Australian dream is to own your own home, and, you know, because people realise what a trap that is now. It's this, yeah, we're becoming nomadic and communal all at the same time, you know, whether it's wanting to be able to be free to travel from community to community. I've never witnessed the level of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the such a deep, powerful need, you know, for a way of life. And it's a beautiful thing to watch, and it's a beautiful thing to watch as people are actually doing something about it too, not just sitting around going, oh, could somebody please create a community for me to move into? You know, they're absolutely doing it.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's really beautiful. And we're learning it again. It used to be how we did things long, long ago before we were messed about with, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to get kicked if I don't ask you again. Imminent. Because I get contacted weekly with people who say, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't ride this out any longer. I can't play the game any longer. I just, like, if something doesn't happen tomorrow, I'm, you know.
Yeah. Oof, yeah.
Having that, you know, I want to. Would I, if I kill myself now, will I go straight to this new reality, you know, or I've been there myself.
Me too.
I feel, you know, I almost convinced myself that if I took myself out, I could be more of a pain in their ass from there, wherever there is, that I could be here, you know, things like that. So when we say imminent, and when we give time frames, it's just like, oh God, not another date. But at the same time, it's, do I have much longer to wait? You know, no one wants another date dangled in front of them, but at the same time, you know, when you hear people talk about, we won't see the changes until, you know, maybe our grandchildren's generation or something. That's the sort of stuff that makes people just want to go, oh, I'm not hanging around for that. you know.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna brace up for this. Okay. Let me ask in return, what is it that we expect to see? What is it that we expect as verification that these changes have happened and are happening? So if we watch the news, if we listen to BBC, if we plug into this information, which is being broadcast 24/7 by the Black Magicians Consortium, spellcasting 24/7, right? The change could very well have happened for you, and you're not even seeing it. So what I say to people is really drill down to your daily life, your actual physical experience, your real life. What happened to you today? How did you feel today? Was there flow today? Did you have a warm exchange with a neighbor or a friend today? Did some old little niggly wound between your child or your mother or whoever, did that clear up today? What is it that we expect? I think that we are looking for something that may be misleading. So if we all just could make an agreement to step aside from the Black Magicians' media bombardment, and we actually just looked at what happened to me today, and then do it the next day, and the day after that, and see what you notice.
I've been having these public conversations now for a while, and I know what comes back in the terms of comments and questions. A lot of them are going to be in that real practical sense. I think what a lot of people are feeling is that they'll know it's changed when they feel free. But they know that every time they get in their car, for example, that they're only allowed to drive that car because it's registered and they have a driver's license. So there goes that sense of freedom. Every time they wake up to an alarm clock that tells them they have to get up and go to a job they don't like, there goes that sense of freedom. Whenever they get a letter in the mail that's addressed to their all-cap person, there goes that sense of freedom. So these are the practical ways in which it tells us that the governments and the corporations and the fronts, the shop fronts for this energy that's running the show is still there. And I think that's the practical thing. People, when they're gone, they'll know it's gone. They'll know it's shifted.
Lisa, I've lived through this. I've been since 2012. Okay? I'm writing a book now because there's been so much, but those years, I understand. I've experienced the awful pressure, the compression, the waking up with like, okay, I have to choose right now whether I'm going to freak completely out or I'm going to find my center just for the next minute and a half. Right? Honestly, okay? I really get it. So I'm not talking from La La Land over here. The thing of it is that you also get up in a body every day that has rules and limitations. Well, we have to breathe to circulate the oxygen. Well, we have to poop to get rid of the toxins. Well, these are the rules and regulations of driving this vehicle. Right?
Yep.
Why is it any different? So you got to figure out where your attention is centered. And what is your definition of liberation? So it's undoing, these are all mind constructs. They're ideas. Ideas are not physical realities. They're ideas. So wake up in your day, really be present to your physical, bodily reality experience, inch by inch. And I had to crawl. I was crawling, Lisa. I was crawling to get across the floor.
Yeah.
I couldn't work anymore because I was now disabled. I had no work. You know, I'm telling you, I understand this. And I will say to you that it actually becomes extremely critical on a practical level that you really begin to just notice what's going on in your physical reality. Go from experiencer to observer. When we observe, other choices begin to show themselves that were not there before just by virtue of how we're using our intention and attention. We have one more choice a new choice that we couldn't make yesterday shows up the next day. We make that choice. This is the work. This is the work. It's not all going to disappear. I think people have very unrealistic expectations of what the shift is going to look like.
Well, we've been fed some fantastical stories. You know, we're going to all wake up one day in these crystalline bodies and everything's going to be bliss and perfect. So,
yeah. What about being happy? Waking up every day happy, absolutely happy. Your heart is completely open. You can feel that there's no place in your heart that's holding back anything from anyone, right? You feel good physically. You've got energy. You're able to interact with other people in a loving and kind way, right?
And the big one, not allowing anybody else's behavior to dictate mine. That's my big one.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So I think if we, for the time being, be realistic and be it physically embodied in our expectations, this will help us. And we'll find that whatever is coming is whatever is coming. Whenever it comes is when it's coming, because we're living in the now. We're living in the now. And it could change any instant. And the beauty of knowing who you are is knowing who you are will always be there, whatever is happening to you. Wherever things are happening, you're being who you are. This is the ultimate freedom. No one can tell you who to be. No one can make you be someone that you don't choose to be. That's such a great place to start.
Yeah, it is. And I like your comment, Deborah. Unicorns and handsome men everywhere.
Ooh, I'm going there, man. I don't know if that's Earth too, but I'm ready.
So just, I guess, if a new paradigm looks and feels to you like freedom, if that's a word that fits, if that's a word you can really step into and integrate, then almost making a choice in each moment when confronted with anything, just I choose the freedom, and then seeing how that rolls out. But I do know that practically for most people it is government and corporations, and as long as they're around, we know that the parasites are there, and or the archons or the bloody reptiles or whatever we want to call these, the elite, whatever we want to call them, that they're still in the reality, they're still in the paradigm. And as long as you're being put in a situation to do or be or pay or anything, that they're still part of this construct, and that's what they're looking for to go away. I mean, I have to admit, being on the outside looking in, America looks like it might be about to just destroy that whole paradigm.
Oh, really? Yeah. We're just on the brink. God, goodness knows what's going to happen here. My day is beautiful. So here's the thing, and I think you hit upon something really, really powerful, which is you're saying freedom. Okay, absolutely, freedom. So I think one of the things that we want to continue to come back to, primary freedom is freedom from fear. Freedom from fear, if we would all do the work to get into an intimate relationship with fear, not run from it, not banish it, right? Meet it full on. Absolutely. Come get me. Here I am. I'm so big. You come on into these arms. Come on in. Come get me. And we're going to dance, right? So there's that part of it, because that they don't expect you to do. They expect you to run. They expect you to hide. They expect you to collapse. They expect you to do God. They don't expect, bring it, baby, bring it, right? Okay? So freedom from fear is huge. And then, once we've gotten the freedom from fear, what I've seen in my life is there's always a third way. When I was told I wouldn't have any more children because both of my fallopian tubes were occluded with scar tissue because I'd had an IUD and the doctor wouldn't take it out when I asked him to, and I got really sick and I almost died, that was what I was presented with. Right? And a little part of me just said, And that little doubt about somebody writing my script for me, my script for my body, that little moment of, I don't think so. Okay? Led to what I call the third way. So you're not stuck between this rock and that rock. Eventually, the third way opened up for me. And little by little, step by step, inch by inch, visualization by visualization, meditation by meditation, deciding that I would write the script for my body. That was healed, and I had another beautiful, healthy baby boy. Right? Totally told me it would never happen. Okay?
I had exactly the same experience for different reasons. I was told after my second that I would never have. I was not having any more. It took me 6 weeks to sort that out, and I got pregnant again.
See? You wrote your script for your own body.
Yeah.
Right. So this is just scale. Think of it as a fractal, and think of it as scale. When you're ready to write, and you can write your script for your own body, you're on your way to writing the script for your own life. And it's not life lived in isolation and out of relationship and all about you and just for you and by you and for you and goody for you. That's not community, right? So we have to take that step too. We write our own script. Our script exists with everyone else's. We are many cells in one body. Okay. So freedom from fear. Learn to write your own physical body script. Do small self-healing on yourself. If you feel yourself get on the verge of catching a cold or something happening, get into that relationship with your body immediately and ask, what is going on? What do you need? Let's talk about it. And communicate with your body. Okay? Write your body script. That'll give you more power. Do you understand? This gives you power when you do this. Every choice you make either gives you power or takes power away. Every choice either gives you energy, more life energy, or takes more life energy, takes life energy away from you. This is the work, right? And it's little moments by little moments. So start with your body script and then grow your power and grow your heart, grow your power. Heart gets bigger, more compassion, grow your power, grow. Just do this dance. See what happens.
I'm just going to put a call out. If there's anybody who has a question before we start to wind up, please put your hand up and I can bring you out if you'd like to ask directly. And just as a closing kind of comment from me, I've had an experience where I would say I went home, what I called home. And it was very spontaneous. It was amazing because it was here, but it wasn't. It was slightly different. And everything was just richer. Colours, sensations. Richer is the only word I can use. Even the air felt different. The atmosphere felt different. The colours were different. Home is what I called it because it just felt so right. Do you think I was seeing a glimpse of what's to come? Or what should have been? Or what is right next to us? Is there a difference between any of those? I could call that Earth 2.0 for sure.
Absolutely.
And I know others have had the same glimpses, but it's a glimpse. It's a tantalising little carrot to be dangled in front of you. That's for sure. But it's kind of over there. It's out there somewhere. It's very hard to pull that in and integrate it. It feels elusive. But having said that, actually, now that I'm sitting and kind of feeling into it, it feels closer than it ever has. Which I haven't done for a while, so cool. Is that question for me, Susanna? Could I have been having an OBE? Yeah, maybe. Possible. So no, I don't think there's any questions from the chat room at this point. Is there anything that you really want to get through or out to people that we haven't covered yet?
I would just say this is we're in an incredible, we call it time. We're in this wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And it requires us to put on our big boy and girl pants and grow up and take responsibility for what we choose. And home is in here. Home is in here. Your body is meant to be the way that you access home. It's not meant to be the way that you're separated from home. So that would be my final message. Your body is the way that you learn to be home, not separated from home. And I'm going to visit every one of you and dream time and tickle you.
Right, I'm in. You are the center of your universe is one of the comments. And thank you for your heartfelt connection. Lots of thank yous. Bring it on, laughter is good. Yes, laughter is good.
Thank you, Lisa. This has been fun. And
it has, thank you.
Okay.
You know, the last week or the week before, I'm not sure now, I had my good news week. You know, I set an intent and I put up a Facebook post and I said, I'm only going to have good news this week. I'm going to, online and off, I'm going to stay positive. I'm just going to look at the good stuff. And honestly, it did make a difference. Things shifted and there were it was great that I had people online and Facebook playing with me. You know, they were just throwing all this really cool stuff on my wall and telling me that they sent me an email, but don't read it yet. Wait till next week so that we don't mess with your work. And it felt like there was stuff offline, more so, wanting to come up and pull me out of it and, you know, poke the sleeping bear. And it was so easy not to let it happen. It was actually really, really easy. And no, not going there, not buying it. No, you can wait till next week. And it was a really nice, relaxing, happy place to be for a week. So, you know, absolutely what we give our attention to, you know, changes everything, for sure. So I want to thank you too, because this has been lovely. I expect there will probably be quite a few questions that come up from this when I put the archive up. So if you're available for a follow-up, we may do that, if that's cool with you.
I am. I think the more we build community and we share with each other and we become cheerleaders for each other, that's a good thing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. And
thanks. Good night, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.
When I post the archive, I'll put up links to Anaiis' websites as well. There's a few there that you can connect with her on for those who want to make contact. And thank you for, I think we had close to 50 people in and out. So thank you very much for being here live, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.